Hi, this is Rich. I'm with Cindy. We're on Legacy and at twoatsea.com. We were talking to a friend last night about her upcoming sail from New Zealand to Australia, and we were talking about prevailing weather conditions. There's a couple of ways to look at historical weather, and I just want to show you a couple of those. One is the traditional pilot charts are up on the screen now. They show month by month the prevailing wind condition, but it's really such a broad estimate that I kind of don't really see the use for it. I mean, while, for instance, here the wind is predominantly southeast, it's also east, and it's also north, and it's also south, and it's also west. And while predominantly it's southeast, it's not always southeast. So it's just an indication. It's not really all that valuable. At least I don't find it all that valuable. It would be better, I think, if we could actually look at historical weather conditions. Well, we can. There's a couple of ways to do that. One way we could do that is on PredictWind. We could go down here to local knowledge, and then we can find an activity somewhere that we're interested in. For instance, maybe here there's snorkeling out here at this reef. We can look at the details, and we could go down to view historical weather. And now we can pick a month. She's going to make the trip in November, so let's look at the wind in November. Here we have, at that spot anyway, the conditions in November, predominantly east, occasionally southeast. Here we see that we don't have that west or that southwest. So it's maybe a little more useful, but it's only that area real close to Australia. Let's take a look at another way of viewing historical weather. We could go to a website called earth.nullschool.net, and it's a gorgeous weather site with grid forecasts, and they're animated and very beautiful, but it's a lot more than that too. We can actually use this website to look at historical weather. We can simply go up here and select a date. Let's see what November of last year was like. Here's November. Let's start from the first of the month. So here we have the wind map for November 1st, 1 o'clock local time, and we can get some data on that. If we put that spot there, we can see that the wind was 35 kilometers an hour. We can step through this. There's Monday night, Tuesday morning. We're stepping through this about 8 hours at a time. We're up to the 3rd already. Now we're up to the 5th. That's actually looking pretty good. The weather's pretty consistent there. Again, it's not giving us any great detail, but we're seeing that there really aren't any storms. Okay, here we can see a front coming across. We wouldn't want to get caught in that. But all in all, it's been pretty stable. Okay, here we can see a little low, but we can see that, well, it probably forms further south than her track would be. And again, this is just one November, and we've only looked at the first third of the month so far. We could go back in here, select the calendar, and we could go back to 2020 and start on the 1st again of November and see what that looks like. Here's a low pressure here. Interesting that it's kind of in the same position it was the following year. This year was a lot more disturbed. There's another big low coming across. But by looking at this for several years, you can kind of get a feel for what the weather looks like during any particular month. So far, November of 2020 is looking like kind of a difficult month. Let's look at 2019. Well, this is the middle of the month, the 13th of the month, and there's a big front here. Let's go back and take a look at the beginning of the month. You could go up around this high pressure system. Anyway, that gives us an idea of what previous year's November looked like. Just while I'm here, let's just take a look at something else. Under this overlay, we could go look at something that's called MI here, Misery Index. Cindy and I look at this all the time. This is the zone of misery. And again, this is November. I'm going to go to now instead. and let's see what it's doing. Okay, the red is where it's really too hot to be comfortable, and this is where Cindy and I are headed right now, up here to Thursday Island and then to Indonesia, and it looks too hot to be comfortable, and down here at the South Island it's too cold to be comfortable. Again, you could look at this at any month. Let's see what next month looks like. The previous year. Let's see what October of 2021 looked like. About the middle of the month. Okay, not quite as hot up here, but still pretty uncomfortable. You can see that Fiji's getting hot. It's kind of entering the zone of misery. Kind of an interesting tool to see what's in store for you. We're using that to look at Indonesia, and we're worried. Anyway, those are just a few ways of looking at past weather. If you know of any others, leave a comment and let me know. I'd sure be interested. Thanks a lot.